Hey, everyone. Welcome back. A lot of you insisted on having the sequel or part 2 of the earlier video titled ChatGPT Cracks Gog and Magog, White European Jews, Ashkenazi, and Their Followers, just a few days ago on January 20th, 2025. Let's deep dive with Jack and Wilson. Oh, I forgot to mention that I wrote a book on this title, Gog and Magog in London. It is on the Kindle edition and paperback option, which means you can read online on your devices and also buy the book as well. The link is in the description of this video. Please buy the book to help spread the word. Do the dawah. Also, hit the join button to support my work. Let's deep dive with Jack and Wilson. Hey everyone, before we dive into that, I was delving into my YouTube channel analytics and noticed most of you who watch my videos are not subscribed to the channel. Would you do me a huge favor, please, and hit the subscribe button? It really motivates me and helps the channel to grow so I can do more videos just like the one you're about to watch. So without further ado, let's dive in.
All right, so we are diving deep today into Gog and Magog.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got lectures and some transcribed texts.
Right.
All sorts of stuff. You know all about this.
Yeah.
You're interested in Gog and Magog, and we're going to get to the bottom of this.
They're really interesting, particularly in Islamic eschatology.
Yeah.
They have this prophetic weight to them,
They do.
you know?
Yeah, and we're going to unpack all that, right? Even some of the more controversial interpretations out there.
Yeah.
So you can get a full picture, but let's start at the source, right?
Yeah.
Let's start with the Quran. We first encounter Gog and Magog in the story of Dhul Qarnayn, this amazing traveler.
Yes, Dhul Qarnayn.
Yeah.
He's this powerful figure
Yeah.
journeying to the ends of the earth.
Yeah, and in one of those journeys, he encounters a people
Right.
who are terrified of Gog and Magog.
Absolutely terrified
Yeah.
of these forces that are causing destruction.
Total chaos.
Yeah.
It's amazing how he just steps in and helps. To keep Gog and Magog at bay, he builds this massive barrier.
Yeah, a massive barrier. And it's not just any old wall.
No.
It goes into great detail about the construction of it. Iron blocks, molten copper,
Wow.
built between a mountain pass.
It's incredible, you know?
Yeah.
It's really vivid, but it makes you wonder, where could this barrier possibly be?
Well, that's where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
And maybe a bit speculative. Some scholars believe it might be in the Caucasus Mountains.
Okay, yeah, they have that imposing quality to them.
Right.
But is there more than just the visuals? Is there something else in the Quran that links the Caucasus Mountains to the story?
Yeah, well, there's a few clues.
Okay.
It mentions a dark body of water to the west of the barrier,
Okay.
which aligns with the Black Sea, west of the Caucasus Mountains.
Right.
Additionally, the Dariel Gorge, a narrow pass between mountain ranges in the Caucasus, could be a potential candidate.
Right. Okay, so we've got the mountains. But how do the Khazars tie into all of this?
Yeah, well, the Khazars were a Turkic group that lived just north of the Caucasus Mountains,
Okay.
right, where Gog and Magog were supposedly contained.
Right.
And here's where it gets fascinating. They converted to Judaism.
This was a whole kingdom, right?
Yeah, it wasn't a small group.
What would lead a whole kingdom to just switch religions like that?
Yeah, many believe it was a strategic move for political reasons rather than theological.
Oh, so it was more political maneuvering than deeply held religious belief.
Right, they were caught between powerful Christian and Islamic empires, and they chose Judaism as a way to maintain their independence.
So they chose to be Jewish to maintain their independence.
Yeah, that's the theory.
That's incredible.
And this leads to another theory, the potential connection to the Ashkenazi Jews.
Well, that's a bold claim. I mean,
Yeah.
most people think of Ashkenazi Jews as being descended from ancient Israelites.
All right.
How does this Khazar theory change that narrative?
Well, some scholars argue that modern-day Ashkenazi Jews may actually be largely descended from these Turkic Khazars.
Wow.
It challenges the traditional understanding of Jewish lineage and raises questions about identity and heritage.
That's huge.
It is, yeah.
So is there any historical or linguistic evidence?
Well, there's a possible linguistic link.
Okay.
The ancient Akkadian word for Scythians, a group associated with the Khazars, is Ashkenazi.
Interesting.
And that sounds a lot like Ashkenazi.
It does, yeah.
Now, it's not definitive proof,
Of course.
but it does add another layer
It does, yeah.
of intrigue to this theory.
We're talking about potentially rewriting the
Yeah.
history of a major religious and cultural group.
Exactly.
That's incredible. And this brings us to Sheikh Imran Hussein,
Yes.
this Islamic scholar,
Right.
who really takes a thought-provoking and controversial approach to understanding Gog and Magog.
Yeah, he really does.
He's known for his focus on Islamic eschatology, the study of end times. So how does he connect Gog and Magog to the modern world?
His interpretation departs drastically from the traditional view.
Okay.
He argues that Gog and Magog aren't some ancient myth
Right.
or a far-off threat, but actual human beings with immense power influencing modern Western civilization.
That's a big departure.
It is, yeah.
What's his reasoning behind that?
He emphasizes the Quran as the ultimate source of truth.
Okay.
And he analyzes the text, even the Hadith, the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, through the lens of the Quran.
So he's really prioritizing the Quran.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a rigorous approach, but it's led him to conclusions that challenge traditional Islamic scholarship.
So he's going against the grain and really prioritizing his understanding of the Quran over traditional interpretations.
Exactly.
Okay, so how does he specifically identify Gog and Magog in the modern world?
He believes they're the driving force behind many of the geopolitical events shaping our world today. He argues that they've been released from confinement.
Oh, wow.
And they are actively working to bring about the end times.
So he says they're already here.
They are, according to him.
That's a big claim.
It is.
It really implies some level of orchestrated manipulation.
Yeah.
That's hard to even fathom.
It is.
I think we need to understand his methodology.
Yeah.
Before we get into the specifics of that.
Right.
Why does he believe this?
Well, his methodology is rooted in a deep understanding of Islamic scripture and history.
Okay.
He analyzes the Quran, looking for patterns and connections and prophecies that illuminate the present and the future.
Okay, so he's not pulling these ideas out of thin air.
No.
He's basing it on Islamic texts.
Right.
That's where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't shy away from challenging established norms within Islamic scholarship.
He's even criticized the over-reliance on hadith without questioning their potential inconsistencies with the Quran.
So he's saying, don't take my word for it.
Right.
Go back to the source.
Exactly. From your own understanding.
Right.
Wow, okay, and that's led him to these really groundbreaking, controversial conclusions. Especially his identification of Gog and Magog.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm curious to know more about his specific arguments, and how he connects these ancient figures to this complex modern world.
Absolutely.
And I think that is a great place to pick up next time on part 2 of this deep dive.
Sounds good.
Last time we ended with Sheikh Imran Hussein's really a bold claim that Gog and Magog are not mythical beings, but forces already at play in our world.
Right, and it's a perspective that has created a lot of intrigue and even pushback.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
What are the main criticisms against his interpretation?
Well, one of the most common is his methodology.
Okay.
His emphasis on the Quran is admirable.
Right.
But critics argue that relying only on the Quran without the vast body of hadith can lead to a skewed understanding.
So they're saying you need more context.
Right. You can't just isolate verses.
You can't isolate them, no.
Without considering the history, the theological context.
Exactly.
Okay. What about his identification of Gog and Magog with modern Western civilization?
Right. Well, critics also take issue with that.
I mean, isn't that a sweeping generalization?
It is. They say that painting a whole civilization as Gog and Magog risks demonizing millions of people based on really simplistic criteria.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to emphasize because even within a civilization,
of course,
or within a group, there's such a spectrum of different beliefs and values.
Totally.
So attributing inherent evil to an entire group based on geography or culture, that's really problematic.
It is, and that nuance gets lost sometimes.
Yeah.
In those sweeping pronouncements.
So beyond the ethical concerns, are there other criticisms?
Yeah, some scholars also question the timing of his claims.
What do you mean?
Well, he asserts that Gog and Magog are already here.
Right, he says they're already here.
Operating in the world today. But if we're in the end times, shouldn't there be more obvious signs?
Right. Like, what about the Dajjal?
Exactly. The Dajjal, the return of Jesus.
Those are pretty major events.
They are major events.
I think we would notice.
You'd think so.
If they were happening.
Yeah, critics say that we haven't witnessed those signs.
Right.
So it's premature to declare that Gog and Magog have already been released.
So it's all about interpreting those signs.
It is, yeah.
Some say we're already in it.
Right.
Others say it's still to come.
It's a debate that has been going on for centuries.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like Sheikh Imran Hussein has settled it.
Not really, no.
Okay, so we've talked about the criticisms of his methodology and the timing of his claims.
Yeah.
But are there any alternative interpretations of Gog and Magog that address these concerns?
There are. Some scholars disagree with Sheikh Imran Hussein's specific identification of Gog and Magog, but they offer a more metaphorical understanding.
Okay, a metaphorical interpretation.
Yeah.
So not literal beings.
Right, not in the traditional sense. In this view, they represent the forces of chaos, destruction, barbarity that exists within and outside ourselves.
So it's not about a specific group.
Yeah.
It's about the qualities they embody. Instead of being a particular people, they're symbols of the darker aspects of human nature.
That's one way to look at it, yeah.
It's like the real enemy is within.
Exactly.
It shifts the focus from external threats to internal battle.
Exactly.
That we all face.
It's that constant struggle between good and evil.
On a personal and global scale.
Right, yeah.
I see.
We each have the capacity for both.
Right.
And it's the choices we make
that
determine which side wins.
That's a much more nuanced and introspective approach.
It is.
You know, instead of focusing on a specific enemy, we're focusing on these human tendencies and the choices we make.
Exactly. And it actually aligns with another interpretation.
Oh, really?
That focuses on the spiritual dimension.
Okay, so how do they fit into a spiritual framework?
Well, in this view, Gog and Magog represent the spiritual obstacles and temptations we encounter on our path towards God.
So instead of physical barriers, they're symbolic roadblocks.
Yeah, you could see it that way.
To spiritual fulfillment.
Yeah, those distractions, doubts, negative influences.
That lead us astray.
That can lead us astray, yeah.
From our past.
From our path, exactly.
I'm seeing how this metaphorical approach can be applied to a lot of different challenges.
Yeah.
Personal, societal.
Right, absolutely. Whether it's our own struggle with temptation or the challenges we face as a community.
Environmental destruction.
Yeah, environmental destruction, political corruption.
Yeah.
Gog and Magog can serve as a powerful reminder of that tension.
Between our higher aspirations and the forces that pull us down.
Yeah.
It's less about pinpointing an enemy.
Right.
And more about recognizing these patterns.
Patterns of corruption, of destruction.
When we succumb.
Exactly.
To those darker impulses.
And by understanding those patterns, we can better equip ourselves to resist them.
And strive for a better world.
For a better world, a more just world.
So we've explored these alternative interpretations.
They have.
Moving from literal to symbolic to spiritual.
Yeah.
But this brings us back to the main question. If Gog and Magog represent this corrupting force, whether literal or metaphorical, how do we resist that?
It's a good question. And remember, even those who disagree with Sheikh Imran Hussein's specific identifications recognize the importance of guarding against corruption and oppression.
So how do we translate this ancient concept into practical steps for navigating the modern world?
Well, it starts with awareness.
Okay.
You know, we need to be attuned to how these negative forces operate within ourselves and the systems around us.
Think about those systems that perpetuate injustice.
Exactly. Systemic racism, economic exploitation, political corruption.
All of that.
Those are manifestations of the corrupting forces that Gog and Magog symbolize.
Right.
And it's important to remember that these systems are often upheld by people who aren't even aware of the harm they're causing.
It's not about pointing fingers at a specific group.
Right.
It's about looking at our own roles and challenging the structures that perpetuate that injustice.
Absolutely. Whether we benefit from them or not.
We all have a responsibility.
We do.
To speak out against it.
To speak out against it, to advocate for those who are marginalized.
Right.
To work towards a more just society.
We have to use our voices and actions.
We do.
To counter those negative forces.
Regardless of whether we interpret them literally or metaphorically.
Exactly. And it's not just about those external actions.
Right.
It's about cultivating inner strength.
Absolutely. Spiritual awareness.
To resist those temptations.
Yeah, the distractions that lead us astray.
From our own value.
From our own values, yeah.
So it's a two-pronged approach.
It is.
Addressing those external manifestations of corruption.
Right.
While strengthening our own offenses.
Our own internal defenses.
Against those influences.
It's about cultivating moral courage.
Yeah.
Spiritual integrity.
That allows us to stand against injustice.
Exactly. To strive for a more righteous path.
Not just survive the end times,
right,
but live a meaningful and ethical life.
Yeah, in the face of these constant challenges.
Right. By embracing justice, compassion, truth.
Absolutely.
You can contribute to a world that is more aligned with those higher aspirations.
A world where the forces of Gog and Magog have no power.
That's something worth striving for.
It is. A journey that requires constant vigilance.
Right.
Self-reflection, a commitment to those values.
And as we move into the final part of this deep dive, we're going to circle back to Sheikh Imran Hussein and explore those specific claims about Gog and Magog's influence in the modern world.
Yeah, it's a perspective that pushes us to think critically.
For sure.
About the forces that are shaping our world.
Absolutely. And our role within those systems.
Our role within those systems, right.
So we've spent the last 2 parts of this deep dive going through all this history and theology.
Right, all these different interpretations of Gog and Magog.
Yeah, their origins, their significance, the controversies.
And now we're circling back to Sheikh Imran Hussein.
To Sheikh Imran Hussein.
And his claims about Gog and Magog operating in the world today.
Remember, he argues they're not some myth.
No.
Not some far-off threat.
But forces that are already at play.
Yeah, in modern Western civilization.
Right, in the power structure.
He's not afraid to name names.
No, he's not.
And that's where things get really controversial.
It is.
So who does he actually identify as Gog and Magog?
He points to the Ashkenazi Jews.
Okay.
He believes they descend from the Khazars.
The Turkic group.
Yes, the ones who converted to Judaism.
For political reasons.
Right.
Okay.
And he says this group now has a lot of influence over institutions and industries that shape global events.
Like what?
He says finance, media, politics, even technology.
That's a huge claim.
It is a bold claim.
And, I mean, it's one that's led to a lot of criticism.
Right. People have even accused him of anti-Semitism.
Yeah, it's important to acknowledge
it is important.
that his views are really contested.
Yeah.
Considered by many to be dangerous and divisive.
Right. We're not endorsing his views.
No.
But we're exploring them.
As part of our commitment to understanding different perspectives.
Even the ones that are controversial?
That's right. And it's crucial for our listeners to understand that we are presenting information.
Right.
Encouraging critical thinking. We're not taking sides.
Oh.
With that in mind, let's break down some of his specific claims.
Okay.
What does he actually say?
He argues that Gog and Magog, through their control of the global financial system, can manipulate economies.
Oh, whoa.
Create artificial scarcity.
To what ends?
To maintain power.
So he's suggesting that they're enriching themselves at the expense of others.
That's his argument.
Wow.
He points to things like economic crises,
right,
wealth disparities,
as evidence of this manipulation.
Yes. And he also believes they have influence over the media.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right.
He's not alone in that belief.
No, not at all.
I mean, the idea that the media is used to shape public perception, to control the narrative.
It's a theme in a lot of conspiracy theories.
It is, but he takes it a step further, right?
He does. He believes that this media control allows Gog and Magog to manipulate public opinion.
Oh, wow.
Demonize their enemies.
Okay.
Justify their actions.
On a global scale.
Yes, on a global scale.
So it's this picture of a small group that's controlling information.
And using it.
To stay in power.
To maintain dominance.
Yeah. Wow. And he sees this playing out in politics too, right?
He does. He argues that governments and international organizations are often manipulated by Gog and Magog.
To serve their interests.
Yes, to serve their interests.
That's really suggesting that even democratic processes are susceptible.
They are, according to him.
To their influence.
Yes.
Okay, it's a pretty bleak outlook.
It is a bleak outlook.
So this global power structure, it's driven by Gog and Magog.
He says they are actively working to erode traditional values, undermine moral principles, and create a world ripe for their control.
So I see how this ties back to Islamic eschatology.
Yeah.
He sees this as part of a larger spiritual battle.
Exactly.
Leading up to the end times.
That's right.
It's a time of great deception.
Yeah.
Gog and Magog are orchestrating these events.
To bring about their victory.
To fulfill prophecy.
Right.
If this group is so powerful.
Yeah.
If they're so pervasive.
Yeah.
Is there any hope of resisting them?
Well, Sheikh Imran Hussein says we need awareness and resistance. He urges us to educate ourselves about their tactics, see through their propaganda, and reject their influence.
Individually and collectively.
Right. Break free.
Reclaim our agency.
Exactly.
It's a choice to act.
It is.
Even in small ways. to work towards a different future.
That's right.
Whether or not you agree with his identification of Gog and Magog,
right.
I think his message really emphasizes the importance of critical thinking.
Critical thinking.
Moral courage.
Standing up for what you believe in.
What an amazing journey this has been.
It has.
We've gone from ancient scriptures to modern conspiracy theories.
Yeah, explored a wide range of interpretations.
We have.
And hopefully this deep dive has given you a deeper understanding of this topic.
This complex and controversial topic.
This is just the starting point.
Yeah.
You know, keep exploring, keep questioning, come to your own conclusions.
That's what the deep dive is all about.
Until next time.
Keep searching for truth.
And stay curious.
Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. I hope you've gained some valuable insights. If you're a truth seeker, yearning for divine light and ready to step out of darkness, now is your moment. The truth is that Allah is the one and only creator of the universe. He has sent over 124,000 messengers and prophets to guide humanity, starting with Adam and culminating with the final messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them all. If you resonate with this message, you might be ready to embrace Islam. Simply recite the Shahada, the Islamic declaration of faith. For further support, feel free to join our WhatsApp group. You can send us a private message there. The link is in the video description. Don't wait until it's too late. We look forward to connecting with you soon.